Hey, Talks Pop fans, RK Stud with you, 2013 Detroit Fanfare with Terence Cover, who directed Damnbulance, and Kimberly Howard, who
hiding in the corner.
Hiding in the corner and doing the voice.
She was the voice on the radio.
Correct. Now I want to get back to you. How did you come up with such a short but very awesome movie where everyone can debate it and reflect over what they would do? And
the original idea actually came from a George Carlin bit where he said that he is not an organ donor because if he were, it would remove the motivation for them to save his life, which for his purposes was a joke. But I thought, you know, it kind of went off of there. What would that be like, you know, going from there? And so that's kind of what got the wheels started. And then basically I wrote the script for film school, and it was just a thing to write and have. I didn't plan to film it originally, so I wrote it out. And then, you know, a couple of years later, I was like, this actually is kind of cool. This is kind of a cool idea. You could do something with this. So I started trying to film it, and it fell through a couple of times. And then finally, last year, I was able to get everything together in the right place to actually film the film. And that was after a couple of different rewrites and a couple other people doing it over. And that's where some of the other ideas that made it a better script came from, was having those other folks look it over. So that helped a lot in that.
one of the things that when we reviewed it, we thought it was just a little bit too fast, a little too short. Did you have any idea of of how you were going to have Bad Paramedic, where he got his ideas from?
I hadn't really thought of the backstory for the characters. It was more of just in that moment. Like everything I wrote was kind of what I focused on. At one point, I actually did toy with the idea of making a feature film version where we would expand on the characters, both Luke, the antagonist, and Mike, the protagonist, and what their lives were like, and what kind of brought them to that point, and what the relationship was beforehand, and then maybe a little bit after as well. I never wrote a whole script version, but it was just sort of ideas were tossed around kind of thing.
Okay. Now, do you have any religious beliefs or spirituality in you? Because this is, everyone can use this in some aspect, whether you believe in God or any other God or religion, or whether you don't believe in anything at all?
I personally am an atheist, but I was raised in a very Christian household, and so I have that background, and that's where a lot of the ideas, the information for what the character should be like, it came from that background. So I was raised Christian, went to Christian school, went to church, up until around 18, then I left the house, just kind of did my own thing, didn't really think about religion one way or the other at that point. I spent a brief period of time as a Satanist, which is ridiculous, I know. It was more of one of those things where it's like, you can say you're a Satanist, so it sounds cool. But
no judgments here.
Yeah, but you know, I got over that, realized it was ridiculous, and eventually just came to terms with my own personal beliefs, which were that I didn't have anything as far as the afterlife. It was like nothing sparks my interest, nothing comes to me. I don't know. But yeah, so for Damnbulance, I wanted to keep both characters Christian, because that's kind of the whole point, is that you can take one thing, the Bible, or Christianity, and you can look at it from two different perspectives. One, a very negative one, obviously, and then one from, eventually he gets to a more positive one. He starts out following the negative guy, but then realizes this is wrong, and there's that scene where he's reading the Bible, and that's where he kind of comes to that conversion, where he realizes, you know, things aren't quite right, by going back to the source. And that's sort of the main point. Go to the source and think for yourself.
That was a very good pointed scene. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Cool.
And so how do you come about getting the two guys to play the main part? Or Kimberly over here being just a voice.
All of my actors. Well, like I said, a couple of years after film school, I tried to film the movie, and I wanted to film it in Ohio, because that's where I'm from originally. And so I was going to film it in my hometown, because I could get an ambulance there for free, and that was obviously a very important part. Like, that's almost more important than the actors. But I did a couple of casting calls and nobody ever came out. Like, none of the Ohio actors were interested. I didn't have connections, that kind of thing. So I ended up coming back up here to Michigan, and a couple years went by, and I held a casting call up here. So that's where I found Patrick, who plays Mike. John, who plays Luke, the antagonist, was somebody I'd seen act in another film. I thought he did a really good job as the villain in that film. And so, like, he would be perfect for Luke. So I picked him. And then I got Mike, or Patrick, who plays Mike, from the casting call. Kim was somebody who just had the voice that I had imagined the entire time while writing it for that. Even though it's a small part, you still hear the voice in your head. And, like, that's perfect. So that's how I brought Kim in. The child, Peyton, I got him from the casting call as well. He showed up for that. And Tanya, who plays the woman, she was my makeup artist. So we just threw her on the ground and said, "Here, vomit." And she's like, "Yes, awesome." She was actually really excited about that because she made the vomit herself and everything. So
Really?
she's very proud of that scene. And then the only other actor in the movie is Sean, who plays the corpse, basically the corpse at the beginning. And he was the guy who let us film his house. So the last scene takes place in his house.
Well, it's a very good movie. We all like it here. In fact, we came up here and purchased it today.
Yes, you did.
So that tells you just how well you guys do your work up here. And know that if you need any actors, you do have some Ohio connections here.
Yeah, no, I do.
Yes, you do. And I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
See you soon. And later again from Fanfare 2013.